Less than an hour's drive south of London are some sleepy villages in the county of Kent. And sharing the same beautiful area is one of the world's most well-known and loved racetracks, the legendary Brands Hatch. For the first time in 14 years, the Endurance World Championship returns to the UK. The stars of the series are pleased to be back, and so too are the fans. It's 6 flat-out hours around the fabulous Grand Prix circuit. Reliability, speed and perfect preparation are a must. The Brands Round is the second of 3 6-hour events in succession. The Spa 24-hour after Nürburgring, followed by the Suzuka 8-hour, with the final, the Bol d'Or, at Magny-Cours. After 2 rounds, the Castrol Suzuki team lead the super production class by 4 points. Hot on their heels is another French team, the GMT 94 group, also on a GSXR. The Honda Elf team have the advantage in the superbike category, but it's another VTR SP1 that's only 3 points behind with the FIM Motors outfit, and the Team Freebike Performance certain to be nudged out of 3 as they haven't made the trip to England. And in the stock sport class, Team 22 Police Nationale has an early stranglehold, boasting a massive 35-point lead. The race is on for second, though, with the next 8 positions separated by just 24 points.
Qualifying, and the much fancied Phase 1 Suzuki team qualified third with Igor German.
I don't have any problem with the track. I'm worried only for the bike, if it will last. It happened a few times, so I hope if the bike works good, we can be on podium for sure.
Also pushing for a podium is the Zhongshan team of current world champions, Stefan Mertens and Warwick Noland.
I've never won a world endurance race, so I'd love to win here, and that's definitely the plan, to beat them, because it's the 3rd round. There's 7 rounds, and we need to start now putting pressure on them. You know, we can't start losing any more points, so yeah, we need to beat both of those guys.
One of those guys is Christian Lavilleret, and the other is teammate, Castrol Suzuki's main man, Brian Morrison, who took pole.
I think there's probably 6 or 7 bikes going very fast, and it's really just down to who can keep it together and the pit work and everything like that. But there's a good 7 guys that are all about the same, and they're nothing in the machinery, so it's just down to set up, riders and a wee bit of luck.
In a superb performance, the top 4 bikes were separated by less than 3/10 of a second. In the superbike class, Herman Verboven Racing took pole with its Suzuki GSXR 750, ahead of the Bollinger Team Kawasaki, whilst in the ultra-close stock sport category, it was the series leader, Team 22 Police, that stole the show.
Race day, and unlike the previous round at Brno, there was no doubt as to which tyres were to be used. It was a lovely sunny day, and conditions were perfect for the noon start. The crowd relaxed and settled in for the long day ahead, whilst things were somewhat more tense down on the grid. You wouldn't have noticed if you'd asked former World Superbike rider Igor German. The Slovakian was all smiles after a promising qualifying and was ready to go. One of the favourites for the race was Zhongshan pairing of Warwick Noland and the lanky Belgian Stefan Mertens. They'd lost their 3rd rider in an accident and were preparing to do all the work themselves. And one of the few who had done more laps around Brands than Mertens was Scotsman Brian Morrison. The points leader went into the race full of confidence and pleased to be racing in Britain.
A unique characteristic of endurance racing is the start. The organisers have kept the renowned Le Mans-style start a feature, and the fans love it. All 37 bikes got away cleanly and were vaguely spread out by the time they'd hit Paddock Hill Bend. Zhongshan's Stefan Mertens easily was the best off the line and leapt to an early lead of the super production class and of the race. The super production category is for 1,000 3 and 4 cylinders, also 1200cc twin cylinder machines. No engine tuning is permitted other than reprogramming the fuel injection or rejetting the carburetors. Quick change wheels and chassis strengthening is permitted. Its closest competition comes from the superbike class, where 750cc 4-cylinder and 1000cc twin-cylinder machines are allowed. Unlike the super production bikes, these machines can be highly modified. It's only the frame, crankcases, cylinder head and barrels of the original bike that need to be retained to meet regulations. And the third category is the stock sport that has the same engine capacity as super production and the same engine modifications can be done. But you can beef up the clutch and make minor chassis adjustments. This is more like your average showroom bike. So there you have it, 3 classes in the race. So let's get back to the race.
Stefan Mertens continued to lead the early laps of the 6-hour sprint, but while he was performing faultlessly, it was another Suzuki team that ran into trouble. On lap 5, Phase 1's Igor German was battling for second with GMT 94 Sebastian Scarnetto. The pair approached Druids. Scarnetto rammed the back of German, sending the Slovakian Suzuki rider into the gravel. Frustratingly, he had to return to the pits for a new rear wheel. By the time he had picked the bike out of the trap and had a new rear wheel inserted, he returned to the track a full lap down. "20 laps later, and whilst in second place, Scarnetto paid the price for being in too much of a hurry. Approaching clearways, the Frenchman lost control of his GSX-R 1000 and literally bit the dust. For such a fast corner, the GMT 94 rider was lucky to escape uninjured. The only consolation was that pit lane entry was directly opposite where he'd left the track. It was Scarnetto's second crash in as many rounds, both of them while the team were in a strong position. The bike needed a fair amount of repair, and the clock and laps ticked away. Scarnetto briefed teammate Nicolas Dressage on the track conditions, as the Frenchman was the next out on the bike. A new fairing and a great deal of air blasting work to remove the vast amounts of sand, and the bike was like new. It was extremely costly though, as the championship contenders had dropped from second and within metres of Mertens to 26th and 4 laps down. By the end of the first hour, Bruno Winner's Castrol Suzuki had stolen the lead away from Zhong Shen, Laurent Briand pushing hard. It had been a blinding start by the world champions Warwick Noland and Stefan Mertens. Despite losing the lead, the pair were well placed in second and making up for their poor start to the year at the Le Mans 24-hour. Hometown heroes Motomax Derby followed up on the brilliant third of Bruno with a strong opening hour at Brands Hatch. The British-based Suzuki team had plenty to ride for on home soil. Mike Edwards and Pete Jennings were all fired up on their GSX-R 1000.
With the race now well into its second hour, the teams took the opportunity to grab a well-earned break as it's a long and tiresome day. But the work was just about to really begin for the Motomax Derby team after Pete Jennings crashed on lap 50 at Surtees. Sadly for the Brits, the damage was extensive and the repairs were lengthy. They returned to the circuit way back in 33rd, but more importantly, some 27 laps behind. Up front, the battle for first place continued. Nolan had just put the Zhongshen Suzuki back in the lead, only to relinquish the top spot after a sluggish pit stop. They dropped 5 seconds on the Castrol team and faced playing catch-up yet again.
We just got into the lead before I pulled in, and the problem we have to face is CERT, the factory Suzuki team, can do 2 or 3 more laps per stint. So we have to stop a little bit earlier. So that I didn't realise that until I just came in, and that's going to make it hard. But overall, Stefan and I are quicker than them as a package.
Whilst Phase 1's A team had ploughed their way through the field, it was the B team of Coutel and Linden that had moved up to third. Whilst Coutel was on the track, it was Peter Linden who enjoyed the massage prior to his stint. In endurance racing, efficient pit stops are critical, but even more so when in a top 3 position. The Whirly Phase 1 team shows how it's done.
Hold it vertical, Jim. Yeah.
Stefan Coutel off and a supple Peter Linden on. The Whirly Phase 1 team maintained third. The Castrol Suzuki team diced with Zongshen for the first 2 hours, but it was Brian Morrison's boys who maintained the lead as the Phase 1 Suzuki slipped past Laurent Briand at the third gear Stirling's corner. The Frenchman signalled it was time for the lead bike to pit. Christian Lavielle was ready to take over from Briand, and the ultra-professional Castrol outfit showed their finesse and speed as far as the pit stop game is concerned.
It's going pretty good. I mean, the first hour was a bit hectic in the beginning. The start, that's always the same. Everybody a bit nervous, trying to settle down. But I just stuck with the leaders and seen what they're up to. And once I knew I could make a wee move and pull away, I got to the front, and it worked fine for me. It's tightened up a bit in the second hour, so I'm just waiting to get back on the bike again.
In the third hour, the seesaw for the lead continued. Belgian Stefan Mertens set Lavielle up with a classic inside manoeuvre into Paddock Hill Bend, a popular overtaking point at Brands Hatch. As the only 2 bikes on the lead lap, it was clear even at the halfway point this dogfight would continue. Mertens was keen to make the stop as quick as possible, but as the race wore on, it became clear that Zongshen's A-team were fighting a losing battle as far as fuel consumption was concerned.
I think we are the quickest rider on the track, but unfortunately we had to refuel often and more than the Suzuki friends. So we stopped before us, and then they stopped after us. So we are playing around together. But it seems that our consumption of the fuel is bigger than the Suzuki friends. So unfortunately, at the moment, we have to refuel once more than them. So we see what's happened.
Phase 1's pairing of Igor German and Arno van den Bosch continued to impress and remained steady in 4th outright. It was the first time the pair had ridden together and were in with a chance of their first podium of the year. But it all went wrong for Michael Cicotto and the Verboven racing team. After leading the superbike class and sitting in 7th outright, he crashed at Clearways and didn't have far to push it back in. He recalls what happened.
I leaned the bike in, and I dove in behind him, and I shoot to the outside. So I got on the gas, he came out, so I lifted, and as soon as I touched the gas, it just went. And they just like, you see it? I was so lucky that it didn't shoot me over the top. I just went.
Whilst the Cicotto crash was cleared immediately, 2 other falls involving Phase 1's Stefan Kutel and Zongshen B-team rider Choho Wan forced the safety car to appear. At the end of the 3rd hour, it brought the field together, but would have no bearing on the lead, but at least gave the riders a breather.
As the dark clouds rolled in, an anxious Stefan Mertens contemplates what tyre to fit, and his team manager knows it's close.
You know, this is endurance, anything can happen, and we are, the second motorcycle, number 11, is very close of us. We still have a lot of work to do, we still have to be careful, and mainly watch what do the number 11. What they do, we have to take informations and mainly lesson of what they do, and in this case we can keep a lead.
The decision to stay on slicks was made, and it was the right one as they enjoyed a 27-second lead over the Castrol Suzuki team, thanks to another strong ride from Noland. It was again Mertens' turn, but could they hang on? At the end of the fourth hour, with only 2 to go, the French-based Castrol Suzuki team were a clear second, 1 lap ahead of the nearest rivals, the junior LMS, with Phase 1's Zero bike 4th and Endurance Moto 38's Yamaha 5th. Another incident caused the safety car to enter the circuit for the second occasion. During its time on the course, several riders broke the rules and overtook other riders. One rider penalised was Scarnato. At the time, the Frenchman was in 5th overall. The GMT 94 team surely unimpressed with his performance after crashing earlier in the day as well.
It's never like this, but we must wait to pass the finish line. But for me it's incredible because I have overtake just when he go in the pit, so immediately I put gas and I overtake, so I don't really understand.
Phase 1's Igor German was also caught out, and team manager Russell Benny explains why.
That stop and go was a real technicality. It caught about 8 of us out. The exact position was, the rules say that the pace car should enter the track and exit from the track in the same position. So here at Brands Hatch, what happens here is the pace car goes onto the track at the end of the pit lane, comes back off the track at the beginning of the pit lane. Thus, length of track about 400 metres long is left with an ambiguity. Now what happened is us, several others, overtook in that 400 metre stretch and got booked for the technicality.
The 5th hour saw a terrible crash involving the leading superbike outfit, the Duca team. It appeared as though the Frenchman entered clearways too fast and ultimately paid the price. The crash handed the lead of the superbike category to the Bolliger team. As the medics attended the fallen rider, the marshals pushed the rather second-hand looking Ducati back to the pits. Phase 1's top pairing of Igor German and Van den Bosch continued their impressive climb through the field, and at the end of hour 5 were in 3rd position after an enthralling dice with the junior team LMS. At 2 laps down, realistically 3rd was as good as it was going to get, unless something drastic happened up front. While Phase 1 were on a high, the pressure was showing at Castrol Suzuki. The race was far from over. At one stage, they were behind Zhongzhen by 27 seconds. But at the end of the 5th hour, that gap was down to less than 7. A strategic pit stop saw Laurent Briand enter the circuit before the pace car. The team knew they still had a chance. So with the gap now down to 6.7 seconds, Laurent Briand was lapping faster than anyone on the circuit, and the Suzuki France team could smell a victory. With only 1 stop remaining, this was Briand's last stint, and it was obvious he was making the most of it. Conversely, Stefan Mertens was slowing on the Zhongzhen Suzuki and was suffering a rear shock absorber problem. Watch as the Belgian exits Druids as it tried to flick him off. If at this stage the problem was magnified and on the exit of Graham Hill Bend, the reigning world champion knew he was in trouble. The Castrol team was honing in.
The tension and frustration was obvious in the Chinese Zhongshen camp. After 5 hours of hard work, their lead was gradually being eroded. Castrol Suzuki had displayed superior fuel economy, and this was their final stop. Briand and Lavielle had done their job, and it was Brian Morrison that would take the team to the finish. Brian Morrison, now in the lead, obeyed the pit lane speed limit of 50 miles an hour for the final time. The Scotsman was rewarded with a final stint after being the fastest member of the team throughout the weekend. In the end, it was their fortune and strategy in the pits that was their strength. Down at Zhongshan, though, Stefan Mertens was distraught.
Everything was going well. We were leading the race. Unfortunately, we had to refuel once more than Suzuki France. We had a lead by 1 minute, I think. And I don't know how it can happen, but it was during the pace car. They came in, they refueled and changed tires, and they could go out on the same pace car. So normally it's the gate must be open 10 seconds. So I don't know how they could manage to refuel in less than 10 seconds, come in, less than 10 seconds and go out again on the same pace car.
Zhongzhen's day ended in disappointment, but Phase 1 was pleasantly surprised at salvaging third after being pushed off the track and falling as low as 34th. They also incurred a stop-go penalty. It seems the new pairing of German and Van den Bosch was quite a find. The Zero Bike's first podium of the year. Warwick Nolan guided the number 2 Suzuki home to second, mirroring the team's efforts at the previous round at Brno. It was a case of what might have been for the Zhongzhen pair. The world champions were out of luck and outsmarted by the Castrol Suzuki squad. So for the second consecutive round, the French-run Castrol Suzuki team took maximum points. And in a special moment, Brian Morrison was able to take the checkered flag on home soil. The trio of Morrison, Lavielle and Briand showed they are the championship favourites after scoring not only their second win, but their third podium from 3 rounds. At Brno, Morrison cheered from the pit wall, but at Brands, he got to bring it home. At the end of the Brands Hatch round, the first 5 positions were dominated by the all-conquering GSXR Suzukis, taking the overall win and Super Production class victory. Top Superbike in round 3 was the Bolliger Team Switzerland Kawasaki. The MV Augusta 750, the only prototype, finished an impressive 10th overall, while the highest placed stock sport was the British-based Dynatech Performance Honda. The Brands Hatch round may not have pulled the largest crowd on the calendar, but it did provide perhaps the race of the year to date. As the Castrol Suzuki team enjoyed the spoils, so too did Dunlop, with all 3 teams on the podium theirs. As the celebrations began, the teams were already planning how they could stop Brian Morrison's mob in the next round, which is also another 6-hour sprint.
Yeah, it's been really good. I mean, you can't get much better now. So we're learning the bike and we're progressing, and we've still got a few improvements to make. But to come here and stand on the top steps, great.
2 podium, 2 second place in 3 races. So this is very good. This is the best results Zhongzhen ever had on the World Championship endurance. So a little bit disappointed because we were very close to the first place, but we are waiting for the next one.
I wanted to try really hard, but we lost too much for beginning the race, and then we tried to put the pressure and go faster and faster, and we did it. Just it was too early to lose so much time, and I think the 3rd place is the best we could do in this situation.
After 3 rounds, the Super Production standings, the Suzuki Castrol team extend their lead from 4 points to 18. GMT 94 still second, and Zhongshen now outright third. For the Superbike, FIM Moto Racing still leads the way from Honda Elf, their 50 points coming from a sole win at the Le Mans 24-hour, and Team Bolliger on the scoreboard with 25. As far as the stock sport category is concerned, Team 22 Police Nationale are clear outright leaders. A united team overdosing on success. Who can stop them at the Nürburgring?